So I was debating whether or not I was gonna make like an actual like edited video for this where I like put like clips of the show and stuff, but I really just decided that the best way for me to get this across would just be to like sit down and rant. Cause I just this show, I swear to God, it just gets to me on such a personal level. It deals with issues that are really important to me. Mental illness, especially in adolescence. I'm actually writing my thesis on that, and like, it's just I just found this show so insulting and so awful. I really just needed to get this out of my chest. Really, so I guess I should make a few things clear off the bat. I have not read the book. From what I understand, it's basically the same. I guess I heard one character got either one character got split into two characters, or two characters got put into one in the show or something. I don't know. And I know there were a couple of changes that they made, but I mean it's still the same basic concept for the show. So I don't think that I would like the book either if I read it. And I also have not watched seasons 3 and 4. I just couldn't. After season 2, I was done. I couldn't take anymore. I mean, from what I understand, seasons 3 and 4 don't really have anything to do with the first and second seasons anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. I did watch, I know that Your Movie Sucks makes these videos where he watched seasons 3 and 4 with his friends, and they made fun of it, and I've seen those. Those are pretty funny. So I get the general idea of what happens. I don't know, there's a murder mystery or some, I don't know, stupid. So yeah, so for those of you who don't really know that much about the show, the general basis is that there is this girl named Hannah Baker who takes her own life, and she leaves behind these set of 13 tapes. Each tape is about one reason, or it's more dedicated towards one specific person that she feels has wronged her in some way. So she makes this tape specifically for them, explaining what they did, and she basically makes this elaborate scavenger hunt. I remember Clay, the boy who finds the tapes, had to go to these different locations that she laid out or something. I don't know, it was so weird. And basically the tapes were supposed to go to each person that she dedicated them to, and so each person that she feels has wronged her could hear what she believes they did to her, and really think about the message that that's sending. It was basically saying if you kill yourself, look at all this attention you're gonna get, and everyone's gonna feel so bad about what they did to you, and the whole it becomes this whole scandal throughout the school, and what a horrible message to be sending to people. You seriously want them to think that they can do this to get attention, basically, and they take their own lives and leave behind these messages of this is what you did to me, then this is what's gonna happen. No, it's just so stupid, and it's just so incompetent. And I mean, again, I said, I take these issues very seriously. They're really important and personal to me. And, it's just handled so poorly. And, the reasons why she... some of them, obviously, it deals with stuff sexual assault and, bullying and stuff like that. And, things like that, I can totally understand why that would cause somebody to be depressed. But then, there were other episodes, so, each episode there's, at least in the first season, there's 13 episodes, so each episode is dedicated to one specific tape. And one of the tapes is there was a guy who anonymously published a poem that she didn't want published in the school literary magazine, and there's an entire episode dedicated to that. okay, that's kind of a dick thing to do, but, like, you're seriously gonna blame that, like, you're gonna dedicate an entire episode to that, like, you're seriously gonna put that guy on the same, like, pedestal, like, you're gonna put the same amount of blame on him as the guy that, like, fucking sexually assaulted you? Are you serious? Like, when does that even happen? Like, and then it becomes, like, this whole huge, like, the poem that she published becomes, like, this huge, like, scandal in the school, and everyone's reading it like, oh my god, who published this? This is so scandalous and dirty, or whatever. It's like, when does this happen? Like, did you, like, care about, like, stuff that people publish in your school literary magazine? I don't think people in my school, I don't think half the people even knew we had a literary magazine. Like, it's just so dumb, and, like, the way that the show was marketed, like, I remember when it first came out, like, it was really hyped up as, like, this huge, like, this is a new, like, serious take that's never been done before. We've never, looked at mental illness like this, and this is a huge, like, it's a realistic take on, like, adolescence and mental health and stuff, and, like, it's all just, like, cliched bullshit writing. Like, all the characters are just stereotypes. Like, you got, like, the cheerleader, the jock, the nerdy kid, the, whatever, and, like, this is you're seriously hyping this up as a realistic, like, look on mental illness? Like, it's all just cliched, like, high school movie bullshit. And, like, and he thinks that, like, he can, like, talk about all of these, like, serious issues, like, oh, we're gonna talk about, sexual assault, we're gonna talk about gay rights, we're gonna talk about immigration, we're gonna talk about, like, school shit. There's a kid that almost becomes, like, a school shooter in this series, and, like, they think that they know how to talk about this stuff seriously, and they don't. It's just so bad. Like, I don't know if they actually put any, like, research into this. It sure as hell doesn't show if they did. Like, I just get the impression that nobody who's writing this show knows what they're talking about. The dialogue is all terrible. Like, nobody acts like a human being. Like, there's this one kid, what's his name? Zach, who, like, gets in some kind of, like, argument with Hannah or something, and, like, I remember, like, there's this scene where they're talking in the lunchroom, and he's like, yeah, well, fuck you, and then, like, one of her friends, like, she's, like, calls her, like, a slut, and, like, slaps her. It's like, yeah, because this is totally what normal human conversations sound like, right? Like, it's melodramatic as hell. It's so, like, over the top, and it's so dumb, and, like, and a huge problem that I have with this show, and there are a lot of them, mind you, but one of the basic things is that Hannah Baker is not a likable character. And that is so, like, detrimental to this show in a very, like, fundamental level. Like, the whole purpose of the show is for you to go through what this character is going through and, to feel empathy for her, and that does not work if you don't like the character. And to be fair, a lot of it has to do with, the direction and the way that they're, like, making the actress say certain lines, and, a great example of this is, there's a scene, in, like, a movie theater or something, because, Hannah works in a movie theater, and one of her friends comes up and she's like, oh, Hannah, is that you? And she's like, no, I'm a simulation. Like, what the fuck is your problem? Like, she just comes across as so bitchy for no reason other than just to be a complete pain in the ass. Like, if I were directing that scene, I would have had her say something like, I would have had her, like, do it in a much more, like, lighthearted, kind of, like, joking manner, like, the character says, like, oh, Hannah, is that you? And she's like, no, I'm a simulation, or, I don't know, something like that. So, just to be, like, you just be like, oh, okay, she's just joking around, she's being goofball, whatever, instead of, like, she just comes across as so bitchy for no reason, and, like, I thought this video was like, she acts like this, and then she wonders why she doesn't have any friends. It's like, yeah, like, I mean, the actress, Catherine Langford, I think is her name, I mean, like, she does a pretty decent job with, like, the material that she's given. I mean, I give some of the actors credit, some of them are kind of, like, not great, but, I mean, the actors, they're trying, but, like, you can't salvage this. Like, the writing is just so bad. And like, there are times where, like, I feel like this show was almost, like, specifically designed purely to piss me off. Like, there's a scene in the second season where, like, they start, like, making fun of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and if you guys have seen my video, or where I list my top 20 favorite movies, you'll know that that is my favorite movie of all time, so that really got to me, and, like, they were like, oh, like, only pretentious people like that show, and it's so, like, it's so pretentious and so dumb. It's like, oh yeah, because we're not pretentious at all. Like, no, this show, you know, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of the greatest sci-fi movies of our time. Yeah, fuck that shit. We're the real show. We're the real entertainment. We know what we're talking about. And it's like, okay. With stuff like that. Like I said, the dialogue is terrible. None of the jokes are funny. The characters are all just, like, stereotypes, and, like, they don't know how to talk about any of, like, these issues, like, they have, like, characters that are LGBT, or, and, you know, people of color, and, like, they try to, like, bring up issues about, like, race and immigration and all this stuff, and they just don't know what they're talking about. Like, they just, all of the issues are handled so poorly. Like, it just comes across as so melodramatic and just bad, and, like, I remember, like, they're in, like, I saw the clip of UMB Sucks, they were watching, like, the third season, I think, and there was a girl who is, obviously, like, they're trying to portray that she's, like, a lesbian, and, like, every scene, she's wearing, like, these rainbow shirts, and got, like, the pixie cut, and it's just, like, so, like, stereotypical, and, like, honestly, like, I just found it offensive, like, how poorly they're portraying these issues. And especially, like, the thing that really pissed me off was the way that they handled, the school shooting stuff. So, like, there's a character that, is really, like, lonely and bullied, and then, like, you see him, like, start, like, messing around with guns, and then in the second season, like, he almost commits a school shooting, and then, like, the boy Clay, like, walks out and, like, tries to, like, stop him, like, he starts, like, talking to him, and then it actually works. It's just so stupid. It's like, oh yeah, kids, that's totally what you should do if a school shooter comes to your school, like, you don't, like, try to evacuate or call the police or barricade the doors, and just go up to them and try to talk him out of it. I'm sure that'll work great. It's just, and, like, you know, especially the character arc that the school shooter dude, I don't even remember his name, the character arc that he goes through, like, they show him, it's like, oh, like, he comes across as a really violent person, but, you know, deep down, he's just lonely, and he just needs a friend. Like, that shit pisses me off so much, and, like, it reminds me of, there was this, like, movement, I guess, or whatever you could call it, like, the walk up, not out thing, where, like, it was when kids were walking out to protest, walking out of school to protest gun violence, and, there were people who were like, no, like, it's not about gun control or whatever, and it's just, like, you just need to, like, go up and talk to kids who are lonely, and then they won't feel bad about themselves, and they won't get bullied, and then they won't commit any more school shootings, and everything will be great. Like, I just found that problematic for so many reasons. One, it's just a cheap excuse to not, like, do anything about gun control. And B, like, it's basically singling out every kid who is, like, lonely or doesn't have a lot of friends as a potential school shooter. Like, I was one of those lonely kids. Like, I don't want people coming up and talking to me because they think I'm gonna fucking, like, shoot up a school. I want people to talk to me because they legitimately want to talk to me. And, like, messages like that in the show are just so, like, offensive to me. You know, like, the way that they handle the school shooter character, like, they try to make him have, like, this arc, and then, like, you're supposed to, like, feel sympathy for him, and, like, you know, he's not really the bad guy, and then at the end of the day, like, he just needs a friend or whatever, and it's like, okay, look, I don't have any sympathy for school shooters, okay? I'm sorry, I don't. Like, I don't care, like, if you were bullied or what you've been through, like, if you think that it is okay to, like, like you're entitled to take somebody else's life because of things that you've been through, like, you immediately lose all sympathy in my book. Like, I don't care what you've been through. And, like, the fact that they're trying to portray this character who tried to shoot up a school in the show as, like, a good guy by the end of it. Like, it's so insulting to me. Like, I cannot believe they did that. And, like, there's these really, like, graphic scenes, especially in the first scenes of, like, sexual assault, and, like, they actually show the scene where she kills herself by, like, cutting her wrist, and, like, the only reason I could fathom for why they would do that is just for shock value, and it's like, how is this educating people? Like, how is this helping? Like, and even just down to, like, the way that she kills herself. Like, in the book, I know that she, like, overdosed on pills, but, like, here she, like, cuts herself in the wrist, and again, it's, like, this really, like, graphic and bloody scene. And, like, first of all, like, that pretty much, like, only happens in the movies. Like, you can't, like, cutting yourself, committing suicide by cutting yourself actually very rarely works in real life. You can't just, like, make a cut in your arm bleed out to death in a bathtub. Like, that's not how anything works. So again, like, the only reason I can think of for why they would change that from the book is, again, for shock value, and just to, you know, like, be like, ooh, like, we're edgy, like, we're doing adult things, and, like, just because they talk about adult issues doesn't mean that they're doing it well. And, like, when this show first came out, like, all I was hearing for it was praise, and, like, I honestly was really excited for this show when I first heard about it, because, again, like, I'd never really seen issues of, like, adolescence and mental health portrayed in film, or at least not portrayed, like, well in movies or TV, and, like, I was hearing all these great things about it. And then I started watching it, and literally by the second episode, I could not stand it, like, not even a little bit. I was just so disgusted by it, and it's, like, it literally just, like, makes my skin crawl thinking about it. Like, it is just one of the most awful shows I can imagine. And, like, so many people online were, like, hyping it up, and I saw, like, these, like, Facebook posts of, like, oh, it's so good, this show taught me so much. I remember, like, this one post where this person was, like, 13 reasons why it taught me to, like, be kind to people, because you never know what they're going through, and it's like, okay, I mean, if that's what you took from it, great, but, like, you seriously needed to watch a fucking Netflix show to figure that out? Like, are you serious? And, like, so many people were praising it, and I just could not believe that, like, no, I feel like people were, like, so, like, impressed that it was taking the time to talk about these issues in the first place, that they weren't really thinking about, like, if it was actually doing it well, because it very much was not. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just how I took it. But I mean, like, more recently I have been seeing, like, more, like, criticism of it, and I am grateful for that, because, like, I was just like, am I the only person noticing this? Like, am I, like, crazy? But no, I am glad that there are more people, and, like, yeah, no, this is actually garbage. Like, there are so many people who are, like, lonely and feel like they don't have it, especially, like, kids, like, adolescents, like, the people that this show is targeted towards, like, but specifically, like, I feel like the show is more aimed at girls. And, you know, there are so many people out there who feel like they don't have anybody, and the only source of comfort that they can find is, like, movies and TV shows, like, the fictional, like, characters in these fictional worlds, because it's, like, an escape from reality for them. And, like, the idea of anybody looking for that source of comfort in something this horribly put together just it makes my skin crawl, and, like, I cannot stand the idea. And this is not in any way to say that, like, if you like this show, then you're stupid or whatever. I have a friend that likes it. I know there are people out there that do like it. And if you do, great. I mean, it's your opinion. You know, people can take anything that from, like, movies and TV shows, they can interpret however they want. You know, I'm not here to, like, call you an idiot if you like the show. The thing that pisses me off is the people who are acting like this is like educational value. Like this is something we should be like showing people in schools or whatever. Like, no, this is not that at all. This show just it does not know how to talk about this stuff seriously. It just comes across as so pretentious and just so like. I almost like don't even know what more to say about it because it's just so bad. I mean, the only thing that I kind of found tolerable was the way that they handled the stuff with Hannah's parents, like how they showed kind of like how they dealt with what their life was like and how they coped with like losing their kid. I felt like that for the most part was handled pretty okay, but like even that they botch up in the second season. They add this like bullshit where it's like, ooh, turns out her dad was cheating on her mom or whatever, and like I don't know, it was so dumb. And speaking of the second season, like, so like the show, the way that the show progresses is like, Clay, like the boy that was like in love with her, like wants to fight for justice for her, like he wants to, get back at all the people who hurt her, and so it becomes this huge thing where like all of the people who wronged her are trying to like cover the tapes up so people don't find out what they did. And so by the second season, her parents actually like sue the school because they said like, oh well, the school didn't take action, they didn't help our daughter, and it's their fault that she killed herself. And basically the school's argument is that you can't blame us for her death because like there are so many factors that could have gone into it, and like you can't just put all the blame on us. And like honestly, like yeah, I'm siding with the school on that. Like mental illness is so complicated and there are still so many things we don't understand about it, and just point your finger and be like, yeah, like X, Y, and Z, like this is why, like you did this, like it's just not realistic. And like, I mean, obviously, like yes, there are people who do awful things to people and that can lead to somebody taking their own life, and yes, those people should be punished for it, but like you can't, it's not that black and white. Like you can't just put all the blame on like a few things, like it, and like even the show kind of like makes an argument against it because they show that like Hannah did have some issues with their family. I mean, like they don't really go into that a whole lot, but like they do almost kind of like prove themselves wrong. Like that's just how like incompetent and how bad the writing is. Like like what you could have done with this show, and like it's just, I still hope that like we're gonna get someday like some kind of like show that does actually do this smart and looks at these issues seriously, but for now all we got is this bullshit. So I wish that like they could have like, wouldn't it have been like more interesting if they had like shown more of like her family dynamic, like show like how like what her relationship with her parents was like how would have that impacted her mental health, or like adolescence is a difficult time, like you're like starting to apply for college and you're transitioning to adulthood, and that can be really stressful. Like why didn't they show how like that could have impacted her? I mean, to be fair, they do go into that a little bit, but like it's hardly anything. It's like one scene, and instead we're just gonna dedicate an entire episode to Poetry Boy, or like really like I feel like not only was the show awful, it was such a like missed opportunity, I feel like. And like that's what really got to me, especially because I personally do take this stuff really seriously. Like this isn't stuff I mess around with. Like this show's like we're gonna talk about all this stuff, and they just don't know how to talk about any of this stuff seriously. Yeah, it's just so terrible, and like I my hope is that people who do watch the show who do and actually like take it serious like this, they don't like read too much into it, and I don't know, like I just hope that they don't like take this stuff like too seriously, or like they don't let it get into their head too much, because like I feel like so many of the messages that the show is sending is really toxic. Like I remember there's a scene where like the whole show is basically like saying that like you can use suicide as a way to like get revenge on people who did bad things to you. And like I know the show doesn't think that it's saying that, but it is. Like I remember there's a scene in the second season where Clay's talking to Hannah, or not Hannah, it's like Ghost Hannah or whatever. I'm stupid. He's like sees like visions of her. It's really dumb, and like he's talking with like his imagination figment of Hannah or whatever, and she says like, oh no, I didn't do this to like get revenge, I did it to help people. Like, what bullshit. Like, you didn't, the only people you intended these tapes to be seen by was the people that hurt you. Like, you never intended like this to be like leaked to the public. I mean, I know that does happen at one point, like the tapes doing getting like leaked to the whole school, but like she never wanted that to happen. She only wanted people who she feels like did bad things to her to hear this stuff. Like, how is that helping anybody? And like I'm fearful of people like taking that seriously, and like unfortunately there are people who are already done just that. Like, I heard that like people have like actually like committed suicide because of this show. Like, I don't know, like, I heard like on the news that like people took their own lives and started like leaving tapes in a fashion similar to this show. And like, it's like, yeah, that, like, what did you think was gonna happen when this is the messages that you're sending to people? And like I am glad, especially now that like the last season has come out, now that it's over. Like, I know that like people say that the show got like progressively worse as the seasons went on, especially because it didn't really have anything to do about Hannah anymore. You know, I've heard a lot of people, like even people who liked like the first and second seasons didn't really like the ending, and I know there were some people who said that like they should have just ended it after the first season. Honestly, they shouldn't even made the first season, in my opinion. One season is one season too many. So again, I am glad that people are kind of starting to see that like this is not something that we should be praising. It's not something that we should be taking seriously. But I just remember feeling so frustrated when it first came out, because all I saw was praise for it. Like, every like Facebook post or video, all people were just talking about like how like cutting edge it was and how inspiring it was, and I'm like, no, this is terrible. Yeah, so I just really wanted to get my 2 cents out there and just talk about why I hated this show so much. God, I'm glad that it's over. I hope that like it just fades away with time, that like people just forget about it eventually, and we can all just move on and pretend it never happened, because it never should have happened. Yeah, and I do genuinely hope that like one day we do get a show or a movie or whatever that does look at this stuff seriously. And yeah, just like, if you are struggling, know that you aren't alone, and there are resources out there that you can look to, just not this show. But just know that there are people who care and want to help you. And yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say. I don't know how I can go on talking about this show anymore. I'm gonna like, I just had to go off. So yeah, thank you for watching this. Love you all, and yeah, fuck the show. Bye.